Many years ago, I focused some study on the concept of vicarious trauma, the impact of us working in the community, working in the trauma field. And my manager at the time, he's here today. I remember talking about this around the lunchroom, and I named the problem. And Mark Travascus, thank you very much for what you were about to say to me. He told me, how dare you name the problem without coming up with a solution? And he was right. And he was right then and he's right now. And so for the last we were working 13 years ago, Mark. For the last 13 years, after I finished that master's research, I've looked into self-care and intentional self-care and well-being. And so today's presentation, you might thank Mark for this, because this is now my nerd topic, or you might, and he's shaking his head, thanks Mark, or you might want to go see Mark Travascus, he's just over there in the back. So when we talk about well-being, a lot of the times when I do speak to well-being, people come and speak to me and say, hey, listen, can you get us a cheap gym membership? Can you do yoga at work? Can you do these things? That's great and that's lovely, but these are resources and it's not necessarily well-being. Well-being, from the guys that have been studying this for a while, the Gallup Institute, talk about the 5 main aspects of our life coming together, and they are these: our career well-being, our community well-being, so by that, our sense of citizenship, our financial well-being, do I have enough money to live above the means, our physical well-being, am I fit and healthy, our social well-being, something that has been impacted enormously because of COVID-19, which is one of the nice things that we've all come here together in a social setting, face-to-face. It's no longer 2D. The thing for me that some of that research misses is our psychological well-being, as well as our sense of spirituality. And the research into trauma work talks about a sense of spirituality helping us bounce back from our work. And I'm not talking about going and having to pray, that's important, but a sense of spirituality. Why is this work important to me? There's a reason why we all come to this work. Just a quick show of hands, who's in this sector for money? We're not here for money, we're for purpose. So our sector should not be called the not-for-profit service, because we don't run a business to not make money. We run a business for a purpose, and that's why we're here. So this is what they're talking about, our sense of spirituality. This is from some of the initial conversations and feedback that we got here. I won't go into this too much, but the biggest wellbeing struggles, you can see management, money, mental health, caring for others. I'm going to touch on that just so slightly. Initial observations, lower level of overall health, first aid training. Training's a big thing, coaching and resilience. Resilience is a wonderful word that we're using at the moment, but what does it mean? And barriers to wellbeing. Not enough time. I think that's a false idea. There's no such thing as time management in my books, because if I could manage time, I'd still have a 3-year-old. I don't at the moment, unfortunately. He's 7, going on 17, so I can't manage time. I can only manage my task within time. So this comes back, just some other little background details. This comes back from a report recently done by Employment Hero, work-life balance. We can see they did some research pre-COVID during last year and this year, so we can start to see a shift in people's work-life balance. We're starting to say work-life balance is better nowadays. In terms of employees' commitment to well-being, this is what we're starting to see, and this might be a little bit concerning when we're starting to see a drop. In 21, people felt that organisations were committed to well-being. So much 8% swing at the moment. If I was a politician, I'd be worried about an 8% swing. So people are noticing this. And the other one is burnout rate due to work. So we're starting to see an increase as well. But what does burnout mean? And burnout's a big buzzword at the moment. And what are we talking about? When we're talking about specifically the impact of our work, we work in the helping profession. There's 3 main impacts. One being burnout. And burnout you get in every organisation. Doesn't matter where you work. Burnout is prolonged exposure to stress. That's it. Here's one thing you can take away from today. What's the number 1 strategy to alleviate burnout? Don't expose yourself to stress. Hey? I'm a genius. but it's easier said than done in our work. And the number one strategy to alleviate yourself from being traumatised, don't expose yourself to trauma. Yet this is what we do day after day after day in our work. And we walk hand up into the fire, metaphorically, to deal with trauma. It's what do we do in our operations to get separation and time away? Coming to events like this is one of the activities that we do. This is what you have in our operations. So we're talking about burnout. Compassion fatigue is that erosion of empathetic engagement. I feel sorry for you. I'm so here to hear this. I'm going to take another intake call and another intake call. And vicarious trauma can be experienced from that lowercase t, continuous small traumas, or big trauma. And it's the change of the experience of the helper. I now see the world different. Don't go down that street in Sydney. Don't go down that part of the town. My world has changed. Some of the signs, I won't go into that. Again, this is my nerd topic I can go on for days. Some of the big shifts that go on that we're looking for is this: a sense of safety, a sense of esteem, a sense of trust, intimacy, control and justice. And in the workshop that I run for managers for CCWT, I say, if you get that right, you're good. The number one thing that happens in our work day to day, every single day, is we lose a sense of safety. With every incident report that you do, every ROSH report that you do, every critical incident that you're managing, safety's gone out the window. So as managers, how do we manage a sense of safety, encourage a sense of safety in our work? That's fundamental. The other one I'd say is control. You lose control when it comes to trauma too. Here's the answer. I should have started with this really, so I could get off and I can leave you alone. The ABC. It starts with awareness and acceptance. I am aware that what's going on for me, the signs and changes that are occurring, and I accept that this is a normal part of the work, and I accept that I walk into the work. I balance my exposure, and I have good boundaries. And boundaries need two things. It needs data, and it needs request. I'm hungry. I'm nervous. I need to get off. I'm hungry. I need to eat. Mark, this is too much for me, this workload. Would you mind if we put some things aside? Boundary and data and request. We need to correlate our resources, and we need to connect. Connect to self, connect to others, connect socially, connect to something bigger than us. And we need to design this. How do we do it? Not by accident, but by design. And how do I continually engage in this? So how do I dedicate time? And so these are some of the, I'll skip over this a little bit. This is the nerd in me. If you want, I can speak to you about this for days. Please let me know. Some of the things here that we see, some of the signs in our work, some of the things that occur for us in our day as part of the work. One of the big things that we teach in the workshop is this concept of the window of tolerance. Anyone seen this before? Yeah? Can you come up and talk about this? I'm sick of my voice already. No? Okay. So managing when we are in a state of hyperarousal, fight or flight, and then understanding when we're in a state of hypoarousal, freeze or fawn. We do this every single day. And there's a way that we need to track this and be aware of this and use calming techniques when we are in hyperarousal, and use some movement in hypoarousal, desensitization. You see this in your day, no doubt, in your operations, with your teams, with your programs, every single day. You see people fluctuate into hyper and hypoarousal all the time. And I dare say that a lot of your HR issues are about somebody's in hyperarousal, talking to their manager, and the manager's going, yep, there you go, performance management. Unfortunately, it's a normal response to our work when we're dealing with trauma. Or when somebody's in hypoarousal and when they're in freeze or fawn and they just can't get there. This is a simple trauma audit that we use to help set boundaries. We audit trauma. This is how we can start to take some control with this. Another important thing with boundaries need contact and they need disengagement. So I need to come in contact and I need to move away from contact. So it's a constant movement. So yes, I do come into trauma, and there's one of the other major things is a guy by the name of Dr. Adam Fraser. I don't know if anybody's read his book, The Third Space. He talks about transitions. My first space is me here on the lectern. My second space is me When I go home and pick up my son, my third space is my transition from here to there. And so making sure we have macro, our drive to work and our drive home, macro transitions and micro transitions. Small little breaks will offset burnouts. Micro breaks. We were just talking about it before, James, about just things like going for a coffee, sending a text message to a loved one or family member. These micro breaks can help offset burnout, and this is a burnout plan that Dr. Adam Fraser talks about. This is my one during COVID. Still can't get to Japan, but that's on the cards. I'm planning that one. This is how transitions looked in terms of operationalising it. This is some of the things that we talk to staff and to managers about. Why do you set your week dealing with your different clients on a Friday morning? And why do you do it on a Friday? Who wants a Friday afternoon special, by the way? Anybody want to deal with the most difficult client on a Friday afternoon? Absolutely not. So we can design it. We understand it happens, yes, hand up, we accept it, but let's not design it that way. And why am I designing it first thing Monday morning? Because guess what's happening on Sunday night? Yeah, I'm not watching Matlock, I'm worrying about work. Is Matlock still on? Purpose, one of the main things that they find in trauma work is what I call a purpose drift, where I drift away from my purpose of my organisation, the sense of self, why am I here and what's my work doing? And Viktor Frankl's logo theory helps us to understand that. I won't go into it. Again, nerd topic. There's some research done on people we like to spend time with, and what they found was that the people that we least like to spend time with are our managers. So 46.9% of males don't like spending time with managers, and 30% of females don't like. So all the managers out there, where are you? We know that where the rubber meets the road, it's in management. That's where the rubber meets the road. It's how good your manager is. I can tell you, I had a great manager with Mark, and my career just, and my skill set trajectory almost grew exponentially. It's in management. You get the right manager the right way, and things happen. So, one of the if there was an important tool for managers, they found that in the research with trauma, they found there was a direct correlation with people with master's students weren't able to manage trauma as well as those with a doctorate degree. And it had nothing to do with how smart you were, and it had nothing to do with your degree. What it came down to was when you are a doctorate student, you have better supervision for longer. You have clinical supervision for a longer period. So the quality of your supervision is vital. And AASW, Australian Association of Social Workers, say that there's three things. Either your supervision is administrative, it's supportive, or it's educational. So we get managers to audit your supervision. So just quick, audit your supervision right now. Is it administrative? Is it supportive, or is it educational? Is it balanced? Administrative, tick, 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 tick. Yep, we all have to do that. But how am I checking in on my team? How am I checking in on your workload? How am I doing it? There's another concept of job crafting. How do I craft my job for my resources? I'll leave that for later. Again, whole concept of resilience. For me, resilience comes down to this. It's a felt sense. I feel like I have enough resources available to deal with the challenges before me. That's it. So as a manager, I'm managing resource, and I have a suite of tools and a delegation that can manage resources. I can change time delay, I can change deadlines for projects and for pieces of work. I can shift things around. I can ask you to work from home and just focus on your case notes because you're a month behind. Whatever it is, you have a delegation there. So what resources do I have for the challenges before me? Last thing, intentional self-care. Whole concept of self-care. People talk, oh yeah, I go sing Kumbaya and I go do 7 salutes to the sun when I face west. Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you for those that got the joke. Appreciate it. For those, okay, I'll explain it later. That's just your resources. How do we intentionally engage with some of these things? How do we set boundaries? How do we understand our purpose? How do we connect with... A really important part is one of my support points and one of my help points. Really big that came out of lockdown. That concept of who is my social circle can I get support from, and where can I get professional help? Do I have a counsellor, a therapist, etc., etc.? So understanding that simple idea of support points and help points helps to offset isolation, which is a massive thing that we've just come off the back of. This is a self-care plan that we talk about in the workshop. But for managers, where's your logic to this? And putting together a logic model on this is really important. Understanding what are my inputs, understanding what my activities are off the back of that, who am I targeting, what are the outcomes I expect, what gets in the way, what's going to help, and how am I going to measure it? This is the design of it. Otherwise, what are we doing here? If there's three things, I would say to frontline staff, practice body awareness, set clear boundaries and identify your support and help points. For managers, help to manage workload. Burnout's a massive thing. You're seeing it all through your day, your work at the moment, everywhere. We're seeing it in EAP reporting. We're seeing that's why people are leaving. Managing burnout is a massive thing, so workload management is vital. Create safety and be democratic. That being, can people talk truth to power without retribution? Do I feel safe that I can speak my truth to my manager? In my 24-year career, there's been 3 managers I can speak to. One is in the room. I've spoken my truth to him, Mark Travaskis, and there's 2 others in 24 years. I'm on average 1 every 7. I can be democratic. The last one for organisations, create clear mental health policies, incentivise good self-care plan, and please be mindful of not building burnout into your contracts. I'm seeing it happen. We can do more for less. You're building burnout into you're standing on the back foot already. They're the 3 things. I'll leave you alone now. Thank you very much for your time. Wish you all the best.